Welcome to What the Fuck Did I Just Read? The Tech Sales and Marketing Edition. This is going to be a blast.
This isn't just a podcast to have a conversation. This is a podcast to affect change.
It's kind of our outlet for therapy, to just let it rip. Alrighty, welcome back to another fabulous episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Read? Tech Sales and Marketing Edition. I am your wonderful co-host, Danny Wolf.
And I am the willing cohort, Chris Roberts.
I was definitely feeling myself just there, Chris. Oh, man. It's been a day.
I'm still not in this time zone. I am so for the last couple of days I've been waking up at between 4 and 5ish in the morning, which is scary. I mean, in some ways it's nice. I'm getting a whole bunch of stuff done, but in other ways it's like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I'm ready for flipping bed. Without a G&T induced sleep.
Yeah, I don't envy you.
Oh man, it was tough. I didn't get my normal, when I get back from travels, especially like over like Israel or anywhere else that's 6, 7, 8, 9 hours time difference. I normally get back and I normally crash for the day.
Mm-hmm.
That did not happen because I spent an extra afternoon, evening, and nighttime and early morning in Canada land.
Yeah.
On this particular trip, the flight was delayed, and I spent an extra evening in Canada. The problem is that meant I got up at like some stupid hour in the morning to then head back here. So the entire couple of days have been totally arse about face, but I'll get there. I'm off this week, which is rather nice. So
you're off, with the exception of this.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I've got some Friday afternoon. I did keep some of because I've been putting my Friday afternoons aside, and I realized that I was off, but I decided I got 2 of them, so not too bad.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you here. Thank you for taking the time on your week off. And Igal, nice to see you here. You did miss me at Cyber Week. Hopefully next year we are not in Israel anymore.
Good to get you out there. I was talking to Gary Hayslip, and I was talking about it a little bit as well. I did I did a post on Cyber Week, a bit of an introspective thing.
Was Gary in Israel?
No, he didn't make it out. There were a number of folks that didn't make it out. I mean, there were a ton of new faces, which was absolutely fantastic to see.
Mm-hmm. But you'll be at our Black Hat. Gary will be there too, right?
So. Yeah, I should be there. There's a part of me that wants to kind of throw my hands up in the air and go hide, but I will be out there. Ironically, I'm looking at VRBOs at the moment for Black Hat, and I normally get a house out there. So nice.
Mm-hmm. I just booked my suite, so we're like ready to go.
Nice. You and the young lady and the young one coming out as well, or just you?
Yep, the fam. I'll be bringing them out. They're going to be roaming around and doing the pool thing and probably charging the room crazy amounts of money. But, what can we do?
Well, at least only one of them can drink. So there is that. So, the bill won't be too drastic.
Fortunately, we're not a big drinking family, but we like food. So
nice.
Anyway,
try to come to Cybertech in January. I love that idea, but airplane flights are not cheap. Oh, yeah. Gosh darn it, all the heck. Speaking of that crazy shit, I just want to go off. I want to go off just for a second. I'm a little... Oh, yeah, there we go. Arseholes. Cybertech. Yeah, Dan, yeah. Let's talk about Cybertech for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm
gonna fetch for a minute. I got hit up by Cybertech. Invitation to speak at Cybertech Global Tel Aviv 2024. Dear Mr. Chris, hope you're well. My name is. I'm the content director of Cybertech events around the globe. And January 30th at Tel Aviv Expo. So I got an invite to that. However, when I dug into it, because I'm like, yeah, I love the idea, love the opportunity. We need to talk logistics. Because again, I got this, hey, you're invited. We'd love to come and you to give a keynote talk and all this shit. So I'm like, hey, we need to finalize logistics. And then I actually sent them the post I did about, actually, I can't do this all for free.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Chris, thank you very much. I enjoyed reading your post. Although we would love to have you, unfortunately, we never cover the cost of our speakers and delegates, but we do partner with a travel agency that provides our guests with special rates. I'm like, Yeah, and that was kind of my reaction because apparently this is a for-profit conference. This, they charge real money for seats, whereas, you know, going out to Cyber Week is a very different set of conversations. So yeah,
Right.
I was kind of grumpy to be very, very honest about that whole thing. I was not amused. In fact, not amused is a very, very nice way to put it.
Yeah. It reminds me of the, "You just won an award, now pay us."
Yeah. Oh my good grief alive. Yeah, you'll be featured in a 10-page announcement and you're one of the 10 and guarantee this all for the price of, 2 to 3,000 US dollars.
Yeah,
I have little to no time for those, I'm afraid.
yeah.
Ah,
Justin did ask a very, great question before we dig into the other questions that we have for you
mm.
today based on last week's conversation. Never been a black hat, curious if it's worth attending as a vendor with no presence booth. I say absolutely yes. There's a lot of offsite activity, there's a lot of networking opportunity. You don't have to be on the floor. LobbyCon is great. A lot of great people going. Nice opportunity to meet new folks and start building relationship capital. So I say yes.
I'm gonna hedge for a second, not in a bad way. So I'm gonna
Mm,
hedge a little bit. You can get an expo pass for free or very little. My one frustration, having been there both as a vendor with a booth and being there as a company owner paying for a booth and also walk the floors as well. What I actually love is, Danny, to your point, LobbyCon, meetings outside of meetings, hanging out with people, just saying to folks, hey, I'm going to be out here. I'd love to grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee with you. I think that's perfectly acceptable. I think walking the floors and talking to people is also acceptable. What I do not find acceptable is when you go around the other booths and you try to hand out your business card either to people at those booths or to people hovering around those booths. I think that's absolutely unacceptable because that definitely is, you got people that have spent 20, 30, 40, 50,000 or more to get themselves there, and you're, how should we say, poaching a little bit or messing around a bit. I
mhm.
think that's a little unacceptable. But honestly, going out there, networking, doing it, setting up meetings with folks who probably already out there, absolutely 100%. Walk the floors, talk to the competition, talk to folks around you, hand cards out that way. Yeah, exactly, Justin. Yeah, I think it's. But I would say it's well worth doing, especially if you can get an expert pass for free. You can, hotels are pretty cheap out in that neck of the woods. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
thought.
Good advice. Um, all right. Last week's conversation triggered me. For those who
Yeah,
were on, for those who weren't on, um, there was one comment by Michael, which I loved, by the way. I loved the comment and it challenged me, which is great. Michael is a good friend. He had mentioned, let me actually bring it up. Let me bring it up. The actual, let's go, let's go, let's go. Where is it? Bear with me.
yeah, you go for it. While you're bringing it up, I mean, Justin, I mean, the deal on the federal side of it. They've obviously got to be very, very careful about what they accept and all that good stuff. So, yeah, if anything, keep it nice and simple. The only caveat on any of this stuff is if you're going to do that, I would start reaching out now because
Mhm.
we're 6 weeks out, 5, 6 weeks out. I'm already starting to get booked up to a point where it's going to be a whole week on. If you find me, you find me. Otherwise, I'm pretty busy. And I think a lot of folks are probably going to be getting that way pretty soon. So, definitely don't leave it to the last minute. Definitely don't leave it to chance. Expect about 50% of people to cancel because they're all running around like headless chickens as well.
Mhm.
If anything, it's worthwhile maybe finding somewhere to camp out and just say, hey, look, if you get chance during the next couple of days, especially if you hang out for DEF CON as well, if you get a chance during the next couple of days, come find me I'll be hanging out at a table at so and so. So yeah, do something like that.
That's a good piece of advice, and I know we're kinda sidetracking it, which is totally
Mm,
fine. I actually had a session with Maria and with Andres right after
yeah,
RSA, and we talked about this, and, I'm gonna link the podcast episode, to this session because we talked about, great ways to set yourself up for kinda lobby conning and great ways to set yourself up ahead of time for going without actually expoing.
yeah.
So, I'd love to share that. If you got time, folks, listen to that episode. It was really great. Gave good practical advice of what you could do to prepare for, meetings coming up. Getting, maximizing your time there if you're not expoing.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's good, and exactly to whoever the LinkedIn user is. Yeah, there's typically a ton, and not just the feds themselves, but obviously organizations supporting them and all that kind of good silliness. So some good folks around.
cool.
All right,
All
we
right.
got go
So
for
the
it.
the comment was, most of the people doing this cold outreach are subject to KPIs targets that are tantamount to activity metrics and don't have the freedom to do appropriate research. It's frustrating to see it continuing to create noise that is getting in their own way. Now, it really triggered me because of the freedom to do your own research, which I think, I called bullshit on it. Um, and I can understand that there's a challenge to do that for multiple reasons. You either don't know how to do it, you don't have the time, to do it, or it's just not in your priority right now because people are telling you to do something else. For multitude of reasons, you got to do it on your own time.
Hmm.
We talked about that last week. You got to do it on your own time. Um, all of the customer research that I've done was on my own time. Spent an hour a week talking to one person that was in my target profile. Looked at who actually my target prospect was through revenue data. Searched them on LinkedIn. Asked them for 45 minutes of time. They kindly accepted. Ran through a session. Learned how to do customer research. Here we are today. What we want to do today, Chris, right, is provide you folks with 10 questions that you can ask or 10 plus steps that you could pursue to identify the research points that are relevant to buyers these days, right? Chris, maybe you want to add some color to that as to why that's important and what we're going to be reviewing today.
Yeah, I mean it's it's relevant. A perfect example. Literally 30 seconds ago, I got an inbound email. Standard inbound email. Hey, Chris, hope this message finds you well. My name is, I'm the pre-sale specialist at this technology company, a certified partner of OpenAI. So, like, we specialize in leveraging cutting edge, blah, 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 blah. As I understand, customer support, here are some, this, and each solution. Love to set up time to discuss this further and answer any questions you may have. Are you available for a call next week? So, generic message, generic outreach, doesn't go in with eyes open in any way, shape, or form, and asking for time without giving any. So, to Danny's point, it's you. If you're going to ask for time, go in with your eyes wide open. Go in knowing your audience. This again back to the .mil.gov days. You don't burst into a building without having pretty decent intelligence or at least good information to know what the hell is going to greet you on the other side of the door. And that's why flashbangs are example in use. But let's face it, you don't do that. So why the hell would you do that in this side of the life? Because it does nothing more. I mean, I'm going to send this back a generic response, basically, as nice as I can put it, telling them to fuck off and remove me from their database. I mean, it's just like, I don't want it. I don't need it. It's gonna, if it didn't already end up in spam, which unfortunately this one did not, it's going straight there now, and they're blacklisted, or as far as I'm not blacklisted. Sorry, they're put on a list of I don't want to deal with you list. So it's frustrating. And so if you spend an extra minute or two and you do some background research and you tailor your message effectively, yeah, there we go. Sorry, squirrel moment. Who the hell's the LinkedIn user? I don't know who you
I
are
think
or
it's
what you.
George. Let's see.
It's probably
George.
good. Yeah, but your title says CISO and OpenAM call to meet me. Yeah, no shit. And I think and that's it. It's a couple of buzzwords, and it was a long email, and it's like I'm done. I don't even want to read it. So this is one of those. Again, to Danny's point, let's take the rest of this show and help you understand what would resonate. I mean, Eric says what would resonate. Well, let's have that conversation. You want to start, Danny? You want me to go through the list?
No, let's
Literally,
go through the list. I mean,
right. So Danny hit me up with this. You hit me up with this what yesterday, day before yesterday, and this came out of last week. And she's absolutely right. This is one of those things we need to do. So I sat down very, very quickly, literally before the show, and I went through what we will call a short list of things to go through. First and foremost, which is probably the easiest one, and there's caveats with all these, which is why it's a lengthy list. The first one is LinkedIn. There are a lot of people in our industry and in a lot of different industries that have LinkedIn profiles. Some are updated daily. Mine, some are updated weekly, some are updated monthly. Some are just not updated very often at all. But at the very least, get out to LinkedIn and take a look at the bloody profile of the person. First and foremost, who are they? What are they? What are you targeting and why? Secondly, do you have any mutual connections? Not that you want to reference that, especially if you somebody you haven't talked with, because we check. But also, it just gives you an idea as to type and kind of people that they might actually be connected to and why. Are they professional side of it? Is it professional friends? Is it fun? Is it a be all across the board? The other part of it as well, what organizations do they belong to? Like on my side of it, I've got the whole ISACA, ISSA, and all the other stuff, and then the tinkerers. If you do a little bit of research on this one, then guess what? You'll actually understand who the tinkerers are. You'll understand that kind of servant mentality that a lot of the organizations that I belong to come as part of. Now, let's say it's somebody that's got a Twitter profile and it's not actually used very much. Twitter. Say you've got a LinkedIn profile and it's not used very much. Well, then default to the next set of them. You've got Twitter, you've got Facebook, you have all of these other social media platforms that you can at least do some checks and balances on who this person is. Their Facebook might purely be their personal stuff only. Well, at least you get an idea as to who they are. It might have some professional stuff. They might be linked into a bunch of associations they're part of. You might be getting an idea. You can also check their humor levels. This is another big classic one. This is something where folks will try to hit me up with humorous, but it falls flat. Some get it right. But you can also see what you can glean. There's a balance on this. Just a heads up on this one. There's definitely a balance on this. And there's some sensitivities, which is thou shalt not get creepy, but thou shalt do thou's own bloody research behind the scenes. Daniel, but let me scroll for a second. Daniel actually asked a message. Do I read all my sales emails? Getting older, some of them go automatically to spam. Quite a lot of them go automatically to spam. Probably 85, 90% of them go to spam. I actually read through some of my spam messages, partly for the show and partly because I want to see what the hell's going on, partly because I do actually respond to some of them. But also it's one of those because I want to see what tactics. I also do want to see if somebody's actually taken the time to, how should we say, personalize it. And yeah, to Justin's point, Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, some of the other ones, Snapchat, all those other kind of good stuff. I wouldn't do TikTok because it's TikTok. Oh, I'm banned on Twitter now.
What?
Yeah, if you go to my Twitter profile, it says suspended.
Okay, squirrel moment.
Absolute
what's the
squirrel
backstory?
moment. Yeah. About a week and a half ago, I think it was that in Israel. I was probably grumpy. I wasn't that grumpy. And then somebody said they would take one of the whiskeys and put Coke in it. And I'm like, you can do what the hell you want with your Coke, but you do it with mine, I will literally gut you with a spork. And apparently threatening in a humorous manner to gut somebody with a spork is a Twitter violation, for which I have been suspended. Yay. Yeah. And the irony of all ironies is I had literally spent, I guess, the last month just kind of umming and ahhing about whether I even want to bother going back on Twitter or whether I want to do much on it, short of putting dog pictures.
Next show, because I have my beef with Twitter.
All right, yeah, we'll have the next show. All right, go for it. All right, so what the heck do you want on a t-shirt? You got to explain what do you want on a t-shirt. I need to know. All right, so let's go back. So we question one, LinkedIn, question two, Twitter, Facebook, and all that other stuff. Number three, let's do a little bit of background. If you are, especially if you're targeting senior leadership, so anybody director, VP, CISO-ish kind of type of person, do a little bit of background on them to see how they got to be where they are. Did they, thou shalt not be creepy, perfect. Did they come up through the education system and walk out of a tier 1 or a tier 2 college or university? Did they bootstrap it and hold themselves up? Have they run companies in the past? All this kind of stuff. What's schooling or qualification? Then what training? I think mine is pretty generic. I basically turn and say, I've got a bunch of awards and a bunch of recognitions, and most of them are gathering dust. Consider that the fact I had all of them at one point in time. Did they come out of the .mil or .gov side of the world? Again, any of this little bit of background gives you an idea of the type of person that you are facing. If they've come out of the .mil.gov world, then how you approach them, how you talk with them, how you discuss things with them. Are they more factual based? Are they more generic story based? Do they want bullet points? All these other things will become very, very, very apparent. Now, here's the biggie. Next one, do the research on the bloody company. I get too many inbound messages, especially on LinkedIn. Way too many inbound messages that basically go, hey, I'd love to learn more about you and your company. Well, asshole, my company is on the internet. We've got press announcements. We just went to Paris and announced a whole bunch of stuff. We be having lots of shit on the internet about Boom Supersonic. Therefore, you should... No, don't poke the CISO. Yeah, no shit. That needs to be on a fucking t-shirt. You should be able to glean a fair amount about the organization. And here's where it gets interesting, because if you do a little bit of extra research, to Danny's point, you take some extra time on this one, you can pretty much glean where the company is, in what stage it's in. In other words, are they starting up? Are they going through, what kind of a growth cycle, or what cycle of a stage of an organization are they in? Are they a mature organization? Are they getting mature? Is the first CISO they have just got appointed a year and a half ago? So all of these bits of background, they're in the aviation space. Well, then that's great. Then what regulatory compliance, legal things they likely have to face? Don't tell me you can solve all those fucking problems, but at least understand them and know that I'm not operating in a vacuum. There are things I have to be beholden to. And do a little bit of checking. If you can pull like the SEC stuff out of Boom, or you can pull it out of everyone else, then do it. Figure out who is our investor stuff. So a lot of that's out there. Danny, are you going to say some stuff?
No, I was just going to say, this doesn't only apply to the CISO role, right?
No, good gods alive. No, I mean, this is any of the stuff. I don't care if you're coming after one of my analysts. If you're coming after anybody inside the organization, do not come to the conversation going, tell me about your company. Come to the organization, hey, it looked like you guys are doing pretty well. Love the idea. I mean, there are some people that have done that. They've approached me and said, hey, love what Boom's doing. Was always a fan of the Concorde. Really look forward to seeing the next one. Hey, you're in regulatory compliance and I can solve all your problems. I'm like, motherfucker, you were doing really well for those first two sentences, and then you screwed it up. And I think, again, that's that balance. Doing all of this research, don't blow it in the first email. This is not one email to say, hey, love you, love your company, love the posts, love what you're doing. P.S. what I've got can solve all your fucking problems. That is not how this is meant to work. If you're going to spend the time and you're going to do the research, realize that this takes time. I am not going to put my company at risk through one email interaction with you about how wonderful you are and you can solve all my problems. That shit ain't going to happen. So start slowly, start steadily, and realize this is a journey. I will not hand anything over to you unless I know who the hell you are. Which also gets back to this next one. Understand not just the company, but the technology stack. I have talked on here a number of times about working with Maria. I've talked on here a number of times about doing anything. So you know who Maria is, go do the research. You realize she works for New Spy. She kicks ass over there. Therefore, you can probably understand what we have gotten from them. So now you can understand maybe what tech we have in place. There's ways of also looking at presentations. There's one big thing on presentations. I'm out there. I talk a lot. I just gave a bunch of talks over in Israel. One of the conversations I had over in Israel is, what are we building insofar as the intelligence side of the world? So that Muppet that hit me about the fact of, hey, I've got this AI solution, you could have probably done a quick bit of fucking research and realized I just talked about the AI architecture we're building inside Boom and all the stuff. Come back to me and said, hey, love the talk you gave over in Israel. This is where I see where maybe we could help you with this aspect of it. That would have not fallen on deaf ears. As it was, yeah, one email to rule them all. No shit. Let me pause there for a sec, because Daniel asked another question. How can you know what the CISO's challenges are if you don't ask? Well, you can ask, but there's ways to ask, and you sure as hell don't ask in the first email.
100%.
Neither do you ask me what keeps me up at night, because I'll taser you for that one, or I'll try to attack you with a spork again. Neither do ask me, any of those other stupid bloody questions that we've been asked 100 times, and most of them drive us nuts. Again, get to know the human. And you do that by doing a little bit of background research. If I've been in there a year, you probably know I'm still building the plan. If this is the first CISO that Boom said, you probably know we're still doing early stuff in maturity levels. So therefore, if you know that, then maybe do a little bit of research. And if you don't understand the NIST or the cybersecurity framework or the MITRE ATT&CK framework or 800-171, it behooves you to learn that before you even approach anybody in a tech and leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going in there going, hey, I can figure out your NIST situation, you better fucking understand what the hell NIST is. And you really better understand how long it takes to actually build a program, run a program. This doesn't end. This is a 3 to 5 year effort. And if I'm a year and a half in, you could probably have a pretty good idea where I'm at if you do your background.
Yeah. So it's kind of like it's a phased approach to getting to know your customer. You can't just
Yeah.
go in and spew your pitch. You have to first do the discovery on your own. Then you have to connect. You have to be curious. You have to ask the open-ended question. Well, you have to connect, right? You have to start building a rapport, establishing that trust. And then you start digging into explore those deeper questions. What are your challenges? Not what keeps you up at night, but what are your current challenges? What are your goals? Asking those questions that will help you build business cases for your customer after you establish a rapport, right? So it's a phased
Yeah.
approach, takes some time, but it's much quicker than going in, spewing in the pitch, right? And spraying and praying essentially.
Well, I think, okay, so here's a perfect example. And this adds on to Daniel's stuff. And it's very, very true. I mean, you'll never know exactly where I'm at without asking. 100% totally agreed. But if you go out and you hit YouTube and you go to Google, or hell, people listen to this for crying out loud. I've talked on here about the things we're doing, the endpoint work we've done, the stuff we've done. I've talked about various companies I like and don't like. So, one of the big thing on this one is presentations. Has your target person actually ever presented? In other words, can you go out and maybe watch the YouTube, listen to the podcast, go look at the slides they've put out there? A bunch of us put out our slides on the free PowerPoint slide decks. And it's my name's on this. It's fucking easy to find. And then same thing, Google, a little bit of Google Foo, their name, their company info, their name with the company info, their phone number, and a few other things. My handle is on there. The Sidedragon One stuff handle is on there. So it's very easy to research kind of where we're at. I mean, I've talked about it. I think Charles and I were on stage at LastCon last year. And we actually talked about maturity. We talked about where Boom is in its cycles. How are we doing at understanding the basics? How are we actually doing at understanding where our assets are, where the tech is, where are we moving? So armed with that, you should be able to actually hit me up and say, hey, how's the journey going? We'd love to have a conversation. So, it's a tough one, but it's easy. The other thing is, let's take another step back as well. Back to the Google Foo, back to the Facebook stuff and a few other things. Get to know the person's hobbies. In my case, it's cars, watches, whiskeys, let's face it, and among a few other things. But are they into walking? Are they into hiking? Are they into biking? I put stuff out, I did put stuff out on Twitter about biking. I'll have to find another outlet for that now, I guess, somewhere. And so that now take a look at any philanthropic stuff that they do. So do they mention any charities? Do they mention anything to do with any kind of like causes, any donated time, anything along those lines? Because again, rather than coming to me and going, hey, I'll pay you, $15, $50, $100, $200 for your time. How about say, hey, look, I noticed that you do a lot of work with Hackers for Charities or Innocent Lives Foundation. If we could grab 30 minutes of your time, we'll donate the equivalent amount of money into HFC or Innocent Lives. I'd be like, that will get my attention more than, hey, I'll send you a free fucking Xbox or a free flask or shit. So it's, dogs again. Yeah. So, but again, it's a balance. I've had it. I've had people go, "Hey, I love your Great Danes, and I've got this really good product, and I want to sell you shit." I'm like, first sentence, fantastic. The rest of it, just blew it. Somebody mentioned on it here, it's like actual dating, not fucking Tinder, and I think that's a perfect way of putting it. It's again, that needs to be on a t-shirt, doesn't it? CISO isn't Tinder dating, Yeah. So let's have a look. Google Foo. I mean, let's talk about Google Foo. Just simple. I mean, if you don't want to spend the time doing LinkedIn and everything else, just Google the individual, for crying out loud. You know, where are they mentioned? What's a company site, conference websites, charities, other projects, boards, any of this kind of stuff? Do they have their own personal website? If so, what the hell does it say about them?
Yeah.
Do they have the dogs on there? Do they talk about other things? Do they threaten to chase people around the block with a spork? You know,
Mhm.
if so, approach them cautiously. So it's, I mean, that's, to me, this is simple stuff, but I come out of the Intel side of the world. So
And that's to spark initial conversation. That's to
yeah,
help you understand and navigate how to start a conversation, right? Not necessarily start selling. Again, let's reiterate that.
I think that's again the difference. It's, you know, we've talked about it. You know, Tracy says spray and pray tactics don't work. Here's the problem. I think, unfortunately, I think they work well enough that the people still do them. I had a bit of a back and forth with somebody on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, when they were like, you know, I send out 300 of these a day and I get 5 people respond. I'm like, well, you asshole, you pissed off 295 people. And some people just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They are happy to piss off 295 people to get 5 potential leads. And of those 5, maybe one buys. So, you know, every day they get one purchase. Not bad if you can get it. But in that 1 week of those 5 purchases, you've pissed off 1,500 people. I don't think that's good, and I think that's why a lot of us feel like it doesn't work because of the debris you leave behind.
Yeah.
But again, some people don't care. So it's a tough one. Now, would it take a day's worth of work to figure out who Chris is or who Danny is or who Clark or any of these people are? I think absolutely. But are you doing that so you don't leave 1,500 people leaving in the dead? Then yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it. And
Mhm.
maybe it doesn't take a whole day. Maybe it takes an hour to do it. So you outreach 7 or 8 people a day because you spent an hour researching them. Or maybe you get the intern and say, hey, congratulations, your job is now the Google food person. Here are the 10 prospects I want to hit in the next, and tomorrow or the day after, do me a favor, spend today researching them. There's ways of dealing with this that I
Right.
think are a lot more effective than they currently are being deployed.
Right. Tracy asks a very compelling question. We cover this question a lot on Audience First podcast, but I want to ask you,
Yeah.
um, what makes you decide to buy what you do? Or what are kind of, and more specifically, what are the decision criteria that get you to purchase a solution?
So I think it's a couple of things. First and foremost, I've got to be in the right frame of mind. Let's just start with the easy one. I mean, there are days where I'll see stuff, and in a different day, it might have been perfect, or it might have been like on the right side, but I just got to be in the right frame of mind, which means I need to be focused, which is part of the reason I take time to read through a lot of the inbound sales emails, or I do stuff, or this is why I walk the floors at the conferences, because I make the time to actually try to be in that right mindset. Secondly, it's got to be the right product for the right time. Again, some of that goes back to maturity. Some of it just goes back to what my focuses are. If you came up to me right now and said, hey, I got this really cool endpoint, I'm going to tell you to go pound sand, because guess what? We just put a really nice endpoint solution in place 9 months ago, and it's working and it's doing the shit it needs to. I don't even care about looking at anything else from that standpoint for another year or two. I really don't. I'll keep a half an eye, but that's as far as it goes. But if you came to me and said, hey, we've got a way of classifying where the hell all your data is across everything, I'm all ears. If I've got a way, and there's definitely, it's got to be the right product at the right time. And I think, again, from a CISO standpoint, we also have to be cognizant of giving that feedback. In other words, you come up and say, hey, I've got a really cool endpoint. I'm like, just put one in place. Don't need to talk with you for another year and a half, 2 years. Do me a favor, have a conversation then. Happy to stay in touch between now and then, but dump me out to a fucking sales database. We've got to take that 30 seconds to give that feedback. The other one again is people buy from people. Tracy put it, I think a bunch of put it on here. It's got to be the right approach, and because you might have the best product, but unless I'm going to spend time looking at it, and the chances of me doing that and not having a good interaction with the human are drastically minimalized. you know, if you have a really good product and a shitty salesperson, or somebody that's pissed me off because of their outreach, or they tried doing an end run, the chances of me actually looking at that product are almost zero. Now, sometimes I have to eat humble pie and go, it maybe is the best thing on the market, or go find me a fucking good salesperson, or I have to deal with it because it's what I want. But for the most part, I've walked away from companies because they just have bad people, even though the product might be good. And I've gone off and I've spent time finding an alternative. So I think it's, you know, it's right time, right place is one of the big ones. If it's wrong time but right product, I have to be able to give that feedback. If I'm in the right mindset, I'm fine. If I'm not in the right mindset, no, there's nothing you can be able to do about it. End of conversation. But I think the big one is the human interaction. Is again, I go back to Maria. I mean, it's probably my most perfect example. I've got somebody there that I trust as a human being. Now, people move companies. If she was to move companies, I have a good relationship with other people inside that organization. That's, I think, the other one. They operate as a team.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't just, hey, Chris, I'm going to sell you shit, then hand you off to somebody else who's customer success, and then hand me off to somebody else who's technical. No, you're a fucking team. All of you are a team. Therefore, I am buying from that team. Knowing
I
full well.
swear, if Newspire is getting a lot of
Yeah, they need to put
promo
me up
on this
on this one.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dear Newspire, sponsor one of these freaking
Seriously.
seriously.
No,
Yeah, no.
Maria's great.
Yeah. I think they've earned it because they've done it right. You know, they take the time, they do it right. And there's a couple of other companies out there that do the same, but they're always probably the easiest one to bring to the forefront because we have a relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the big part of it as well, is even though you've sold me something, it's still an ongoing relationship because, and the perfect example, and I'll name names. Dell, when I turned up at Boom, we had Dell and Verizon had sold Carbon Black into Boom.
Mm-hmm.
The first that they apparently knew that we owed them money was when I went to them and said, where the hell's our support? And they're like, oh, we haven't asked you for any money and you haven't paid for a while. We should probably have a talk. I'm like, motherfuckers, if the first and only time we're talking is when you want money out of me, this is not a relationship. This is an absolutely terrible transactional thing. So I think this is one of those, this is a complete, completely different setup, which is where, and again, there's no, we're trying to deal with CDW and there's challenges there because they're like, hey, we want to come and we want to talk. And then we don't hear anything for a while, or then things don't occur, or people change. Oh, Yvette, you want to talk about, I can't keep up with some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How many people changes? And we've had the same thing with a couple of other companies where you're like, hey, we got this, there's a couple of other companies. There's one that looks after a lot of our Palos and our network gear. And it's a good relationship that we have with them. We work with them on technical stuff. Cross Connect's great. They do what we ask and we work with them and then they give feedback if necessary.
Oh man, I just got a LinkedIn message, by the way, from someone because I added that I'm part of the Cloud Security Alliance community.
Roll.
They want me to discuss the opportunity for CSA to exhibit in their. I'm just like, I just can't handle. I'm just take it off, or I should send them this episode. Oh my gosh, people don't do it. Don't do the research.
So this isn't, again, okay, so this is a perfect example. It pisses me off because, first inbound email, hi, I'm Daniel from this company, a leading US-based cybersecurity startup dedicated to safeguarding business with tailored solutions. As you must know, the US government and Microsoft have recently uncovered a silent yet deadly cyber threat called Volt Typhoon. New week, new day, new fucking bug. This stealthy state-sponsored actor is already inside our networks, undetected. I mean, you want to talk about selling with fucking FUD.
Yeah.
So in response, we've partnered with Offer the Solution, deception platform, yada, yada. One, if you did any fucking research, you'd have realized that was part of the initial deception world. And then I'm like, okay, thanks for the email. However, please remove me from your outbound marketing and sales. Thank you. Then I got the, I'll remove you. I appreciate what you guys are doing over there. I've been an SR71 since I was a kid. Happy to see it. I'm like, why the fuck didn't you lead with that? Why did I have to tell you to go jump into a lake or jump off a cliff before you actually did some fucking background research?
Yeah.
You know, number one, don't ever come at me and sell me with FUD.
Yeah.
Oh, there are bad things going on out there and they're already inside your network. I'm like, yeah. And then tell me about this new thing called deception. If you'd have done your research on LinkedIn, you'd have realized, one, I started it. Secondly, I worked for two of the biggest deception companies out there, one of which got acquired. You know, stupid shit like that that actually annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah,
So
I'm sending. You should send this episode. I'm sending the episode to that gentleman. I'm telling him, do you know, step 1, listen. Step 2, apply. Step 3, let me know how it goes.
oh my gosh, yeah, yeah, Justin. So customers don't like it when you only talk to them every 11 months for a renewal. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. There are some things that I buy in a transactional level. No two ways about it. Very, very. Yeah. Okay. Perfect example. Perfect, but not perfect. With security guy. Okay. So a flipper. Let's just say my flipper is a transactional purchase. I bought this because I am going to mess with it. I have messed with it. I do tools with it. I do everything else. I bought it. I'm not after it for a software license here. I'm not after it for research. I don't need pre and post sales tech support with this. I don't need any warranties with this. This is purely a transactional purchase. Whereas this one's telephone is not a transactional purchase. I look for support on this. I look for the ability to continue to connect with it. I look at this as a tool that I can continue to evolve within my organization. How do I turn this into an authentication device? How do I turn this into maybe a protection device, a safety device? How do I use this to ensure the integrity? How do I use this to ensure what data is on it, isn't on it? So this becomes a tool inside the organization that I can continue to evolve. Therefore, as I use this tool, I want to know more about it. If you've sold me this tool, I want to know what your development life cycles are. I want to know where you're going in 12, 24, 36 months time side of it. I want to know how I can integrate this in with, say, Okta, or how I can integrate it with LastPass, or how I integrate it in with my endpoint systems or my mail systems or anything else. I want to know if I can integrate this in with my badge readers and my cameras and maybe authentication on the machine. That to me is a relationship set of organizations and conversations. So if you're selling me one of these, it's build a relationship with it. So
there you go. There you go. Yes, hat swag. And if you are an actual advocate, you could always do the tattoo as well. But you know, you have to be crazy like me. So there's no going back. My wife says.
There isn't with tattoos. Definitely not. Yeah, this better make this bloody thing work.
Okay, well, this has been good. I think we covered a lot of ground. I do want to keep it under 60 today. Anything else you want to impart on the audience today before we sign off?
No, I think this is a challenge. And this message needs to be heard by the leadership. So by anybody who's running the BDR teams, by the folks that are imposing the metrics, by those that still think the old ways work, but especially by those that sit there and are, you know, your 300 outreaches today are, you know, 95% ineffective, and you've pissed off those people. I think this message needs to be heard by the folks that are imposing those rules. Now, whether it is or isn't is a different conversation. Hopefully this grows and we have more and more people learn from it. But I think that's the big thing is the old ways don't work. It might be time to change them and actually build a freaking relationship.
I kind of want to get on. I want to get someone on who completely disagrees with us and have a conversation with them.
I would be interested. So okay, and this is not. Oh, this is probably typecasting. I have a horrible feeling that a lot of people who are in the I'm out just for me and myself, my company and I don't care if I piss you off because, well, you're a number to me, are going to be, how should we say, a little narcissistic. Um, so maybe yeah, go for it. But and to me, I've got a horrible feeling he just won't care.
Maybe. But how polarizing would it be?
Great, as long as I'm allowed to sharpen up my spork.
We'll bring spores.
Maybe that's a blackout conversation. When we're at a blackout, we do the conversation there because at least then I can chase them around the building with a spork.
By the way, James Ozar?
Yeah.
So we're gonna be doing a podcast jam session at Black Hat. So we should get together and talk about it.
Hell yes.
Yes.
I think I've done one or two of his absolutely fantastic sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna be we're setting that up now. We're talking tomorrow, but we're taking on sponsors for that. We're gonna be talking about all kinds of good, juicy topics, but this problem is one of them. This problem is one of the topics that we're gonna be talking about. And I just talked to him earlier this morning. I was like, what if we get Chris on and we all, like, three of us just kind of jam on this topic? So I'll let you know.
I'd love to do that. I think we need to get a few others on as well.
Yeah.
It's, to me, I wouldn't just want to say, I would like to have some of the folks from, to your point, that are polar opposite, but I also want folks that are in the trenches on the business development side. I want folks that are on the trenches on the sales and marketing side, because this is a problem we all have to solve. This is a message we all have to give. I can give it from my perspective, but I want to hear it from others and then go, okay, how do we help? What do we need to tailor? How do we do something different? How can a CISO respond in order to effect change?
Yeah, 100%. Happy to bring folks in, more CISO security practitioners as well. So yeah, we could talk about it, and
Cool.
I'll let you know the details. If any of you folks are interested in sponsoring as well, let me know. Happy to talk to you about that. You can come on in and join the conversation too. So it's going to be a fun jam session.
Totally.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Well, this has been an awesome episode. Hopefully useful for all of you listening in. I was really looking forward to this session last week when we got that comment from Michael. Michael, thank you for that comment. It was wonderful. Triggered a great session today. We will be back next week with another episode, drilling down into the spam folder of Chris.
Yeah, we need to. The poor little thing is overflowing and is definitely due some love.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. Oh, we got some people interested in coming on and talking about this at Black Hat. So
Awesome.
yay! And Daniel, thank you for the shout out. Welcome to the show. Playbacks are on YouTube, so hit that up when you get a chance. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This has been another episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Read? Tech Sales and Marketing Edition. Got to get used to that. We are out.